Greetings, traveler. I'm SnapJelly, and 2 weeks ago I made a video talking about jump attacks in which I very briefly mentioned the movie Troy. Now, because of that, some people asked me if I could review the fight between Hector and Achilles in that movie. And, well, yes, I can. And here it is. Now first, I want to say that I love the way that this fight is choreographed. Because when I do these fight reviews, I keep two things in mind. I don't look at them just from a historical martial arts perspective. I also look at them from a stage combat perspective, because I have experience in stage combat as well. And in all honesty, in terms of realism and practicality, this fight doesn't have that much going for it. There are a lot of questions about how the ancient Greeks really fought, but just there are a lot of flashy moves that are going on. And you could also say that Achilles is boasting, is showing off, is showing his skill towards the Trojans. All of those are possibilities, and in all honesty, we don't truly know. But I love the way this fight is choreographed because the timing is right always, and that's something that bothers me a lot. For example, when you see people waiting for the other person to strike, and this fight has none of that. So that's something really good about this fight, and honestly, I think it's one of my favorite movie fights ever. But, like I said in the beginning, in terms of practicality, it doesn't have that much going for it. So there's a awful lot to talk about. So join me in my quest, and I'll tell you why.
Now you know who you're fighting.
Okay, so first off, taking off the helmet. I know the fight hasn't even started yet, but I want to say something about it. Now, I get that because it's a movie and you need to see who the characters are and stuff, you need to be able to tell them apart, that they want you to be able to see, the actors' faces and stuff, and that's why they take their helmets off. But in a real fight, you wouldn't do that. These helmets are pretty open in the face, they allow for enough vision, and they don't limit your breathing at all, since your mouth is open, so yeah, it would be pretty stupid to take your helmet off. That being said, start the fight. So it starts off with a little stab and a shield bash. Now, if you look closely here, you can see that Achilles is completely open. He doesn't have his guard up at all, which is something that Hector could exploit, but not really, because Hector doesn't have his guard up either. He didn't even assume a defensive position. He's just kind of standing there. And here it is, the first jump attack. Now, like I said, I made a separate video talking about just that topic, to which I will leave a link in the description below if you haven't seen it yet. So I don't have to go into detail about it now. Alright, so here you see Achilles continuously turning his spear around and stabbing. Which you could do since his spear has a butt spike, and if your spear has a butt spike, then you can stab with the other end. But why? Because stabbing with the other end of your spear is not more effective than stabbing with the front end. So you could just, instead of turning your spear around and stabbing again, you could stab with the same end multiple times. You don't have to turn it around. But once more, from a stage fight perspective, I see why they did this. Because it's slower, it takes more time, it's telegraphing your attack a little bit so that you can safely react to it. Which from a stage combat perspective makes a lot of sense, but in a real fight you wouldn't do it. You could do that though, if you would use the spear with two hands. That way you'd be a lot faster, and it's way easier to switch over and use the back end of your spear. but in this case it doesn't make much sense. It also seems like Hector likes to dodge a lot. I think this is the 4th time now that he Matrix ducked away from Achilles' spear, instead of, taking cover behind his shield. The weird thing about it though is that as soon as he dodges, he smacks the spear away with his shield. So why not do that in the first place? Why not keep your shield raised? Why dodge first? So this looks pretty dope. There's no reason to do it behind your back though. I mean, in the end it's just another stab, so you could do this exact same thing but in front of your body. And Hector of course waits for the very last second to defend himself, instead of taking cover behind a shield. But he does it behind his back, and that results in this little swing, this little strike attack. Yeah, so striking with a spear, can you do that? That depends on the spear. Some spears have particularly large heads, in which case you can definitely slice with them. So then you could. However, Achilles is a hoplite, and he uses his spear one-handed. It's a stabbing spear, and a large swing like that, it doesn't have much power. So even if an attack like that lands, then still it wouldn't do all that much. Yeah, so this would never happen. Yeah, Hector's spear wouldn't break like that. Just imagine you breaking a piece of wood over your knee. You would hold it with 2 hands, because if you'd hold it with one and smack it on your knee, it doesn't work. Maybe with balsa wood it would, but with most types of wood it doesn't work. And in the case of Hector's spear, it's kind of the same. Just look at this chopstick, for example, right? If I want to break this chopstick by applying pressure here, then I can. Just by pushing it, it's bending already. If I apply enough pressure, then it will eventually break. But that's because this part of the chopstick is pushing against my hand, and it's not powerful enough to break through my hand. Now, just imagine this being Hector's spear, and he's just holding it with his hand like this, right? Now, Achilles strikes the spear with his shield on this side. Then what will happen is this. Doesn't break. See, that's the thing. When you hold a spear, considering how Hector is holding his spear, right? Because he's got Achilles' spear locked in place like that between his spear and his body, and then Achilles goes like boom for a strike with his shield, and that breaks the spear right there. It must have been very crappy wood, because there's nothing down there that prevents the spear from turning. Because that's what would happen. So best case scenario, Hector would be disarmed, because of the turning, and the spear might fly out of his hand. But most likely that won't happen, because people really underestimate the strength of wood. Of course, there's all kinds of different kinds of wood, but Hector is royalty and Achilles is Achilles, so they would have had the best quality available. It's important that your spear doesn't break, so you need wood that's both strong and flexible to prevent that. So what would most likely happen is, if you hit it with the side of a shield, is nothing. It would just shake a little bit in your hand. It won't break, however. That's not gonna happen. The way that Achilles' spear breaks looks way more reasonable. As you can see here, the spear is restricted to go down any further, so it can't shake. It's resting on the ground, and it's still in Achilles' hand. So when Hector kicks it, the spear has no place to transfer all the energy. It cannot get rid of the force, so it breaks. However, I still think that it's fairly unlikely. Just saying, that was a really wimpy kick. If your spear breaks that easy, then that's a pretty shitty spear. Alright, so a little spin attack here. I gotta give the movie some credit for it, because in all honesty, this is, I think, the most reasonable spin attack that I've ever seen. It's smooth, the timing is right. Achilles opens himself up for such a small amount of time, that honestly I don't think that Hector could have really done anything to block this. I still think it's unnecessary, but it is the most decent one I've seen so far. Now this little shot I think is really awesome too. Because in all honesty, if you have armor somewhere, then that armor is not going to be pierced that easily. Well, if it's good armor, at least it won't be. So if you have bronze greaves, I'm just guessing that they're bronze, yeah, by all means, redirect an attack to your greave. Have your greave stop it, why not? It could work. I honestly think that's really cool. Well done. More spinning. This one makes less sense. Hector, would you for once just hold your shield in front of your body, Jesus Christ?
Get up, Prince of Troy. Get up. Won't let a stone take my glory.
More spinning. More spinning. You know, that is actually a decent disarm. Double spin. Double spinning takes the kill. Now before the end, I want to talk a little bit about some things that I feel like make this fight awesome. Because I feel like we never really get to see Achilles' true strength. Throughout the entire movie, Achilles is constantly overpowering his opponents by miles. They're not even close. He takes on multiple opponents at once, and he comes out unscathed. Now throughout this entire fight, I kinda get the feeling that Achilles is playing with Hector, that he's not really serious. There's no real way of telling how serious Achilles specifically is, but it's just a feeling I have based on the moves that he does compared to Hector. His moves are way more flashy. He's sometimes opening himself up for no particular reason. So this makes me think that Achilles is doing those things on purpose, because he either wants to show off or maybe is not taking the fight very seriously. And then this happens. I think this little scratch has quite a lot of impact. You can see the confusion on Achilles' face. Because we have seen Achilles take on multiple opponents at once without having anything happen. We've never seen him get hit before, and even though he still didn't get hit right now, he still missed. He just barely missed. This is the closest that we've seen him get to being hurt. And Hector did it. And another thing is, people give Hector a lot of shit. Like if you go on YouTube, if you go on a YouTube video and look at the comments, you'll always see people complaining about how Hector got tired too soon and stuff like that. But on the other hand, they also show a scene of Achilles breathing heavy, clearly showing that Achilles was having a hard time, that he was doing his best, or at least that he was trying harder than he usually does. So one of the reasons why I love this fight so much is because there is no real way of telling how serious Achilles was. As far as we know, Achilles is practically unbeatable in melee. We don't know how much of his supposed power Achilles actually showed in this battle. And it makes me assume at least, that Achilles is secretly still miles better than Hector was in this fight. And based on both the lore and the choreography, there are multiple times that Achilles could have ended this fight, but didn't. So it makes me assume that Achilles is way better of a fighter, yet still in the end, he recognizes Hector's skill. because he looks confused when he almost gets hit, and he is seen panting. So he's clearly tired, he's trying hard. Those two details are very important in my opinion. They really make the fight, they give the fight feeling, and a lot of people, I think, gloss over that or don't give Hector enough credit. Now, Hector could not stand up to Achilles, but he did better than anybody else ever did, until Achilles decided to end it. And he ends it by stabbing him straight in the chest armor. Really? Really, Achilles? His head is exposed, his neck is exposed. You can just stab him somewhere that's not covered. Don't go straight for the middle of the chest armor. God, So that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. You can click right here to watch the video about jump attacks that I did 2 weeks ago. You can click right here to watch more fight reviews. Or you can click the round button to subscribe. You can click all kinds of stuff. You'll probably figure it out. It's not that difficult. And thank you for joining my quest, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Bye, guys.